Hey, I'm Chris Trapper, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm lucky to do what I love. Well, I think music in itself is really, it's an art, it's a passion, it's a joy, it's a release, it's therapy. It can be so many kind of good things, and a lot of times it's just fun. It's just I think when I first started playing music, I picked up a guitar and started playing a couple chords, and as soon as I started playing, I kind of realized that it was just drifting in my mind and started dreaming. And so I think all these good feelings kind of flowed out from it. And then once I started writing songs, it became a really good release of negative feelings, negative energy that I could pour into a song, almost like somebody would write in a diary. And then you write the song, you sing it, and that pain is released. And it becomes a really healthy, cathartic thing. And so I think that feeling for me has become addictive, which is still the same thing now. When I write a song, it's usually reactive to something that I've gone through. And so I think that I'm very lucky to work at a job that's not only fun, but it makes you feel better. And so I think and also makes others feel better, which you just shouldn't forget that aspect to it, that music can be a really healing art form where when, like say, I remember the girlfriend in college, dumped me. And she said she's having, personal problems. And then the next day I saw her walking across campus hand in hand with another guy. So apparently her personal problems ended very quickly. But there were a couple songs that kind of ushered me out of this really kind of negative space, feeling like I wasn't good enough, to like kind of songs that were like, I am good enough. And so I think that music makes you feel better. You also makes others, you share in that joy, in that release. I would say simply to a kid that I write songs, which are just little melodies that I come up with a tune in my head. It could be like do 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 do, and then I could write lyrics to it. I am a nice guy, and then I take whatever that song is, and I travel across the country and sing it for people. And if I do a good job singing it for people, they'll want to pay me to sing, and they might want to buy a recorded version of that song too, so they can hear it again and again and again. And they might if my concert is good when I sing that song, then they'll pay again and again and again to see the concert. So you think that's how I would explain it? Usually I just pack up my guitars and I go and sing for people songs that I wrote, that I made up. Yeah. I think music became my voice overall. It became my voice. I think I first started to sing back in high school, and it was a time when I couldn't really talk to people aside from my few kind of geeky friends who weren't judgmental, because they could be judged right back because they had issues. And so I definitely couldn't talk to girls at all ever, because I'd be too nervous. I'd stutter to the point, like in high school, if I got asked to read in class, I couldn't get one word out. I'd sit and choke and strangle myself and turn red, and it was awful. And kids picked on me back then, but kind of rightly so, because they didn't know what was happening with me and nobody explained it. So, but once I could sing, like the next year, I was dating an upper class girl who was the best looking girl in our whole high school, like well known to be. And people were like, "How did Trapper get that girl? How did he get that girl?" And it was just literally because I sang for some audition for a play and did a bang up job one time, and suddenly I had a purpose in life, so I think singing, music evens a playing field in a big way for people. I think for us geeks. Even in my own neighborhood, I'll talk to people who when I explain my job, they either think that I'm really incredibly famous, or I play at the local pub on open mic night. They have no sense that there's all different levels for people who play music professionally in between. And so you have to explain to them that, I'm a singer-songwriter and I play little clubs. I'm not playing stadiums. I'm playing theaters. I'm playing little clubs. I'm playing coffee houses. I'm playing bars. I'm playing living rooms. I'm playing, wherever people want to hear a song, I'll go play. But people tend to believe that musicians, if you've made it, you're flying on private jets, you're eating caviar, you're playing in Normo Dome, and there's no level beneath that you can make a living at it. And I have friends who make livings at all different levels. I have some friends who play arenas and stadiums, and then I have some friends who make a living because they write songs for other people. I have some friends who just have great fan bases who go and play concerts, yet they don't get played on the radio or VH1, but yet they would still make more than a doctor would or a lawyer. They earn more because they have such big fan bases that are so enthusiastic about them. So I think that that there's all different jobs in music that can bring money in, and you don't have to be a huge star. You don't have to be in front of the scenes. You can be behind the scenes. You can be a songwriter who writes songs for other people. You can be a producer who sits in the studio and makes an artist sound great. You can be an engineer. You can be, conductor. You can be a tuba player. You can get paid for it. There's all kinds of jobs. So, well, I think being the youngest, you have 6 kids in a family that truly, if I was to describe us, we did put the fun in dysfunction. But I think most of my brothers and sisters were starting to move on in life, and I kind of always felt a little left behind, not intentionally, but just that's how kids are. My brothers and sisters became teenagers and got friends and got dates and got cars, and so I generally lived in my own world, and I would create my own thing in life. It's like you'd sit and throw a baseball against my house for 6 hours, literally all day. That to my neighbors, you probably looked like I was a lunatic. But in my head, I had a picture of the whole game, of the teams, and I was a star pitcher, and I was going to win the game for my team, and there's a big crowd there in a big stadium. And so I had the ability to really fantasize, pretty heavily. So I'd collect comic books. I'd climb trees. In fact, I had a spot in this one willow tree right in front of my house where there was a perfect seat right in one of the top branches where I could monitor all the goings on in my whole street. And and music was introduced to me young too, where that became another way where I did get kind of escape into my own world. When I play guitar, it's like every problem that I had or thought or negative thing happening at home would just disappear immediately. I think my biggest pet peeve is kind of mean people and rude people. And I think in general, people who put themselves before others. And I think there's a whole school of thought that either you do one or the other. And also, if I'm speaking honestly, like I think that the society, another pet peeve, you saw school music budgets tend to get cut, and yet school sports budgets don't. And there's a value to sports kind of beyond music, and you always see music teachers struggling to, like, buy a baton to conduct the chorus, but you see the sports, your football team has full gear and logos and T-shirts and all that stuff. You think the undervalue of music is a big pet peeve of mine, because I literally do think it can save lives. So if you reach that one kid who had no purpose and kind of steer him towards a career in singing music or playing music, or even just singing as an outlet in high school, there's a lot of kids, they take the things in high school very personally, and it becomes a very heavy time for them. If somebody says that you're ugly, it affects you for months back then. Whereas nowadays, if somebody says I'm ugly, it bothers me for maybe 5 seconds. Then I move on. But back then, it's a whole different thing. So if you can feel like included in singing, which is you're participating in an intangible, and you're kind of lifting up your souls, and you're singing together. It's like it's a little different from throwing a pass and catching a pass, because you're kind of believing in what is unseen, and it's almost spiritual in some level. I would say, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry so much about what people think about you, because you won't be the person that you are now in 20 years, in 10 years, in 30 years. You'll be very different. I played for my high school reunion, and it was the first time I had seen most of my classmates for years and years and years, and I was in high school, I very much felt lesser than, and I felt like a loser. My high school reunion, I kind of realized quickly that I was one of the main events there. Just the fact that I was showing up, and people knew that I had a public job, and that you could Google my name, and some good stuff would show up. That you'd be a picture of me at the Grammys or whatever. Which to my high school class, a lot of the people stayed in Buffalo, and was impressive. So I had some people ask me for pictures with them. And if you had told my high school, your version of me, that someday those kids would want pictures with me, they would have said, you're high on something. I don't know what, but some kind of a drug. And so I think I would just say to that guy, don't take it so seriously. You try and enjoy the present tense. Enjoy the time that this is. You pass this quickly, and then you'll be worried about different things later on. It won't be what people think about you. It'll be what your kids think about you, or if your parents are sick, or just different needs at different ages. I think if I weren't playing music, I think the one career that it definitely appeals to me, but on a different level, would be teaching. Because I think you can really, as I just talked about, you can steer a kid's life for the better. You can literally, you can change the course of a person's life. And when I was in 7th or 8th grade, I felt very, very aimless and lost and isolated, and had some hard stuff happening at home. And I'd go to school, and I saw school as like prison. I hated it. There was nothing good about it. I hated the kids, hated the classes, hated everything. Only because I had a perspective on it that was just negative. Based on stuttering and based on certain things. I would wake up in 8th grade with my heart pounding because I was so nervous that I'd get called on to read in class or to do a book report, stand up in front of people. And in 7th grade or 8th grade, chorus teacher, she plucked me out of the crowd and she said, "Chris, you have a really nice voice. You can sing." And then suddenly all that negativity didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter what was happening at home. It didn't matter if the kids picked on me, because suddenly I was included in a chorus with 80 kids. And, I could look across and see the beautiful girls. You realize I was singing with them. I was a tenor. I'm singing with sopranos. And so the teacher's one small move to kind of pluck me out. You'd say I was good at something, and then nurture it and cultivate what skills I had. And she got me singing all different groups, and then singing through high school, and then I sang in college. And that one move, it became integral, where I'm still singing now, today, and I get paid for it. And I was able to buy my parents a house because of singing, and I was able to see the world from singing. But it all started with that one teacher saying that one small thing, that one moment. I can still see it so clearly now too. Her saying that, and you think teachers. The other thing about teachers that I think is cool, if you're a person who craves respect in your work, a teacher can sit with kings and queens and doctors and lawyers and any profession, astronauts, and they will be equally respected, because every doctor or lawyer or astronaut had a teacher that at some point affected them positively. And so I think that they never forget that. I think parents a lot of times are worried about their children, so they want the tangible. They want proof that you can do something and make a living at it. I was lucky in that my parents valued intangible more than tangible. Like, had I said to them, "You know what, I'm thinking of being a lawyer," they would have said, "Why?" But when I said I'm thinking of being a singer, they're like, "Hey, you go, great decision, perfect," because that sounds interesting and it sounds fun. And so I think that my parents were definitely an anomaly, and all kids have that. But I think most parents, if a kid kind of presents a good game plan for any job, it's like, I'm going to build statues. You can sell them. Well, it's fine. You show me a game plan of where you'll be in 18 months, or parents will go with it if the kid has a clear picture of where the destination is. Well, I grew up really poor too, so that there's no economic pressure. It's like you have to make what your dad made, which is $500 million a year. I mean, I had no pressure in that sense. Not that he didn't. Not that what he did wasn't impressive. He raised 6 kids on one salary. So I think that I couldn't do that now. But I mean, like, I didn't have that kind of pressure to make a big living right away. So, hey, I'm Chris Trapper, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm lucky to do what I love.